Hello, welcome to Medis in Depth, part of Levant TV's Press Reviews. Nick Cohen writes a piece in The Guardian where he argues by hating the migrants in Calais, one would be hating themselves. He starts by saying he looked at Salah Mohammed Ali and wondered how he would be remembered if he died trying to reach the shores of England tonight. He adds it was not a fanciful speculation. Since the 1st of June 2015, 10 refugees have died on the roads around Calais, at the port or inside the Channel Tunnel. Their number include an Eritrean woman hit by a car last week on Calais' urban motorway. Cohen recalls in a very graphic way a Sudanese man who had tried to jump onto the Eurostar train. He misjudged the distance and the train smashed his head open. Worst of all was Samir, an Eritrean baby who lived and died within the space of an hour. Her young mother fell from a truck heading to Dover. The fall triggered a premature birth, and that was Samir's life over before it had begun. Cohen says now we learn that migrants do not just menace the weekly shop and annual holiday. They are swarming towards us as if they are a host of mosquitoes that must be drenched with pesticides or a plague of locusts destroying everything in its path. The inhuman comparison is not from some newspaper columnist who is paid to pull faces to order like a grotesque in a freak show, but from David Cameron, our expensively educated and supposedly civilized Prime Minister. Even if you think the Twitter storms about political misspeaks and gaffes are fatuous, consider what you did not hear after the Prime Minister's outburst last week. No one, not Cameron, not the opposition, what's left of it, not the talking heads on the media, thought of saying that while Britain reserves the right to keep out economic migrants, it welcomes genuine refugees, including genuine refugees now stranded at the Channel. Cohen then goes on about Tony Blair's policies, under which he considers Britain was a liberal country, a tolerant, decent nation, as Blair himself put it, which was proud to have provided a home to the Huguenots fleeing Louis XIV, the Jews fleeing Tsarism and Nazism, the Poles and Hungarians fleeing communism. But when it comes to Poles, Cohen forgot to mention they are nowadays fleeing EU-imposed policies and poverty. From the 1990s through to the early 2000s, all politicians except right-wing extremists made that crucial distinction. Britain will root out abuse of the asylum system but give a place to genuine refugees, said Tony Blair when he was Prime Minister in 2005. The writer says, I am putting it as kindly as I can when I say Blair's fine words barely constituted a half-truth. The visa and travel restrictions the previous generation of politicians enforced kept out many a genuine refugee. He adds, for all their hypocrisy, it mattered that Britain's leaders felt obliged to pretend that Britain was a better place than it was. Politicians believed that the British, or rather a significant segment of the population, wanted the country to be Blair's tolerant, decent nation. They would damn politicians who boasted that they would to stop genuine as well as bogus asylum seekers. And in a typical Guardian tone, Cohen then returns to the present, and you see, David Cameron does not even bother to pretend that Britain is a sanctuary anymore. He has no need to lie and offer pious platitudes, which only goes to show that you should never trust a politician who doesn't lie to you. And far from being refreshing, Cameron's ugly honesty has had calamitous consequences now nowhere more than in the Middle East, where Britain has provided refugees for just a few hundred of the 4 million Syrians displaced. Until today, the Church of England has uttered the odd lament but mounted no insistent campaign for Britain to offer sanctuary to at least some of the Christians that Islamists are driving from Syria and Iraq. Meanwhile, Labour politicians sound the modern equivalent of the Victorian moralists who shrieked at the mention of sex in polite drawing rooms while ignoring the backstreet brothels. François Guénol, a cheerful pensioner who joined the charity Auberge des Migrants because he said, I could see suffering humanity, estimated that about half the migrants in and around Calais were refugees running from Sudan, Ethiopia and the prison state of Eritrea. The rest were Afghans, Pakistanis and West Africans. The only people who were not obvious refugees were the Pakistanis. The logic driving Cameron's defence of England from swarming migrants leads to the destruction of England's oldest liberty, the freedom to mind your own business. Cohen then concludes the alternative, the authoritarianism, is to challenge ingrained attitudes. Democratic governments ought to stop accepting the indulgence of criminal regimes shown by the United Nations and the World Bank. International aid should go nowhere near their thieving leaders. And for more updates, please visit levant.tv. You could also subscribe to Middle East in Depth on iTunes. That was it for today's story on migrants. Thanks for watching and bye for now.